Hello everyone, I'm Nate and welcome to my channel. It feels like fall today. This is my kind of weather. Yeah, it like literally, it never happens in Central Ohio. I'm sure we will get like a 90-degree October day coming up here, but it literally went from the last day of summer, it was like 90 degrees almost, and then it was like next day was fall and it was like 60 degrees. Done. We got the memo. So that never happens here. But today we're going to be talking about Agent 001, aka the Pilgrim, aka my signature yo-yo from Squared YoYos. Man, this was really a fun project. You know, I've never really kind of like had this dream necessarily to have a signature yo-yo. I've always thought about designing a yo-yo, but I've never thought about like, okay, what would I want to play over and over and over and over again and feel like other people want to play as well, right? Because I feel like I've talked about this on this channel too with signature yo-yos, that there's that balance, right, between like you want it to fit that player's play style and all that and their preferences, but you also want it to be marketable enough that other people would want to play that. And sometimes that doesn't always connect perfectly, right? And so I wanted to create a yo-yo that was laid back and very chill, very much like my style. And I think there's a lot of people, especially who probably watch my channel, who aren't uber focused on like competition and all that. Knowing the demographics according to YouTube, certainly are people who are about my age, and so most of you probably aren't like competing and looking for that yo-yo that's really gonna just push it, right? But rather maybe just kind of an all-day, everyday carry kind of yo-yo, and that's kind of what I was hoping to attempt with the Pilgrim. It started about a year ago. With Terry Orchard, right? If you don't know Terry, he's great. He's done some design work with Jake before in the past, and Jake connected us to, and he said, hey, let's just have a preliminary chat and just kind of like let Terry know what you kind of have envisioned. And so I told him, I said, I want an organic yo-yo. That absolutely has to be it, right? I love organic yo-yos. I like that comfortable feel. I like a yo-yo that feels good in the hand, but also just kind of feels good on the catch and all that as well. And so it had to be organic. And I wanted something with a higher wall as well. I really love to kind of throw regens consistently, and I wanted something that have a little bit of that old school feel to it, mid-school rather, almost feel to it with that higher wall, but some smooth grooves as well. And then I also kind of wanted to kind of give a kickback to some of the design work that whenever I first started with Squared YoYos. And so that was kind of where the hub design came in as well, and sort of the centering ring and that kind of thing that goes into it. I'm holding here, this is the prototype. And so really the biggest difference between the prototype and what the final production was it shaved off a gram. So let me step back just a little bit as well. And so the colorways and all that, and this is kind of exclusive through Jacob's Patreon. So if you don't know much about that and you don't follow Squared YoYos, his Patreon is a monthly subscription, right, as Patreon is. And with that, you get basically a yo-yo, a shirt, and there's other kind of perks as well with that. I think there's different tiers on that. I'm not a Patreon as a sponsored player, but you can check that out. I'll put a link in the description to his Patreon. But this was exclusive through that, and the colorways and all that were chosen by the Patreon subscribers, and so I thought that was really cool. And they chose some good colorways, by the way. The solid black, of course, is very appealing to me, but I also love this kind of Jurassic fade here that they chose as well. So let's go ahead and start back here with the prototype. Like I said, I wanted an organic yo-yo, something comfortable in the hand, and so it's organic, but it's ever so slightly kind of flared out, so it's still comfortable on the hand. And I didn't want anything like, I don't know, I kind of wanted everything to be sort of average as far as weight and diameter and all that. I didn't want anything too light, too heavy, kind of just that really comfortable, everyday kind of carry throw, which is kind of what the Pilgrim kind of concept meant. I'm not meaning like the Pilgrims who came here over on the Mayflower kind of pilgrims. I mean the pilgrim in the sense of like a pilgrimage, right? Something that you can journey with you, right? So to be a pilgrim is to be a sojourner, right? And so something like that, like the yo-yo that you could just kind of put in your bag, you could carry all day, you could throw all day, and you could feel just comfortable with it, and it would go with you on your journey, right? That's that concept. And it also kind of is a kickback to a number of years back, I was doing a pour-over sort of little business. I would come into like barbershops and things like that where I would do these pour-over things, and it was called Pilgrim Coffee. Again, talking to Terry, it's interesting. You know, I've never been part of like trying to get my vision in my head, right, on paper and then onto CAD and trying to like convince somebody else like, hey, this is what I'm wanting, you know? And so it started off, you know, kind of rudimentary, of course. I just kind of just vomited everything I was thinking to Terry, and he was very gracious and very kind of kind of walking me through of like, hey, so this isn't going to work or this is going to work. And so the initial design kind of started a little bit more flared out, a little bit sharper on the edges and not so organic. So we kind of brought that in. And then the hub design actually came a little bit later. And so the hub design is kind of a kickback to the Albatross, which the Albatross was, of course, G Squared YoYos' first yo-yo and the yo-yo that really got me hooked onto G Squared YoYos and got me to reach out to them and say, hey, are you looking to sponsor any more players? And so, by the way, the Agent Zero, or the Agent series rather, is going to be all the other players on my team here, my fellow teammates on G Squared YoYos. And so, yeah, so be looking for those. They're all going to be very different. Again, it was a pleasure working with Terry, so shout out to him. It was really, really a good process and a learning process for me. For one, I gave him this, like, whenever I initially, because I've seen, like, some, like, drawings of CAD and stuff, you know? But when the paper I gave him, he was, like, very kindly was like, in the future, can you just make sure you put it on graph paper? Because I'm like, yeah, duh, I didn't even think about those kind of things, right? I'm just like, oh, could you, I want this design, do this, you know, and just he was like, okay, you know, but you know, it's a little clearer as far as what you understand if you have it on graph paper. So just you know, that's something simple I learned. So we have the prototype here, and again, the big difference here between the prototype and the final production here is that it is about 1 gram lighter in the production. So right around that 65 grams mark, which is a great spot to be in my opinion. So again, it's not going to feel too light. It's going to feel very commanding. You're going to feel it on the string, but it's not going to be cumbersome, and it's just going to feel good in the hand and on the string, and it's going to regen like a pro. All right, let's go and actually toss it. Again, I am biased, but I'm going to try to talk about how I wanted it to play and how it actually came out. So let's go. All right, welcome back to the on the string section with the Pilgrim Agent 001. My signature yo-yo. So again, if I didn't mention this clearly enough, Jake doesn't really do signature yo-yos for his team. These are kind of more, I don't know, they're the closest thing we're going to get. Let's just say that. So again, I wanted to create a yo-yo that was comfortable, right? A great EDC kind of yo-yo, everyday carry kind of yo-yo. So this yo-yo is not going to have the longest spin times and the greatest stability. It's going to be predictable, right? I wanted a yo-yo that wasn't going to have a lot of flair and flash to it, clean design, but just kind of like, it's got that comfy feeling. Especially on a colder day like today, it's going to feel like a warm blanket in the hand. Maybe that's a weird description. Again, the Pilgrim was meant to fit my play style, which is very kind of chill, not super fast and speedy. I'm not saying that you can't, you know, push this yo-yo, but it's meant to be like just a yo-yo that's got to have a lot of flow to it, and you have to be very kind of intentional with it as well, and just comfortable, right? So on a catch, that's exactly what it is. It's super comfortable on the catch. It's got enough spin times to kind of get you through everything. Taking that gram off from the prototype really does make a difference. I mean, it's like, okay, it's just a gram, what's the big deal? It gives it a little bit more nimble feeling, and it just feels like it's a little less sluggish than it was on the prototype. But overall, man, it's exactly what I wanted. that high wall, I wanted a yo-yo that was really going to excel in regens. And I don't know if you know this much, but you know, when you don't have much of a wall there to work with, your stability on regens is not as predictable, right? It's not going to be impossible, but this yo-yo is really going to thrive for those kind of things. And so I wanted a yo-yo that, like, okay, you're done with this combo and you can kind of just, again, throw it back out, start another one, and so on, okay? And so that was kind of, again, the intentionality of that, and it kind of gives it that more old school feel, right? Which I'm kind of old school as far as what kind of designs I prefer more. Now that high wall is not going to be conducive to horizontal play, necessarily, right? I mean, it's not going to be impossible to pull off, but it's definitely going to pull that drag down. It's also not going to be like the best yo-yo for finger spins. It's not going to be impossible, but that hub design is not great for that as well. But you should be able to pull off something. So yeah, you should definitely be able to pull off a finger spin if you wish. But again, it's not going to be centering because that hub is there. I wanted a yo-yo that you wanted to pick up consistently, right? And I think that's what was accomplished here with the Pilgrim, at least for me. Again, I'm biased. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of a behind the scenes look at the Agent 001, AKA the Pilgrim from Squared YoYos, AKA my signature yo-yo. All right, that's gonna do for now. Until the next one. Later.